meant to be a hands-on experience for you. So if you want to participate, that's the reason we're doing it. So feel free. And if you want to watch before you jump in, that's fine too. There are some gloves over here on this side, and there's some vinegar in a bottle. There's a couple different places where the vinegar is. Lime is base. It can burn your skin. If it's dry, it won't do anything. You can have it on you all day long. Believe me, I do. But if you start sweating, that water will activate that lime. So if you get any on your body, thank you, Isaac, my assistant. If you get any on your body, like you can see right there, I've had that since the last talk. Not a big deal. You just spray, rub that on, and it's acidic. So it neutralizes the base and it won't hurt you. And then you can take water or soap and wash it off. But I smell like vinegar. Oh, the vinegar. So know that. And then the other thing is you want to use hand cream because it also is very drying. So my fingers feel like sandpaper all the time. So in order to touch somebody I love, I got to put some lotion on there to make sure that I'm not harming anybody, okay? So those would be the two cautions. The third caution would be protective eyewear. If you have sunglasses or you have regular glasses, that's fine. And if you don't, there's a machine over there that's mixing up our hempcrete, and there are safety glasses in there. If lime gets in your eyes, how many of you ever got shampoo in your eyes as a little kid and your mom kind of had to strap you down to wash your hair? This is like 10 times worse, but it doesn't last forever. And you just rinse out your eye and you're usually okay, or put in eye drops. But it is not fun. So wear protective eye gear if you're going to be a part of doing this. You never know when a splash is going to happen, right? So how many of you have seen bottle brick walls? Oh, good. Everybody knows why you're here. That's good. So basically, a bottle brick is when we take two bottles that are approximately the same size. They can be a little mix-matched. We cut them as partners, and then we just put tape on them. Oh, well, we clean them, dry them, put tape on them. And then they're ready to go into our space. Now this is kind of, we're not even sure how big this whole wall is going to be. So when I cut these, I was cutting them so that they're a little bit beyond our edge here. And that's because I'm still going to have to put stucco around them. So they will be embedded, but that will be the next step. So you want them to be slightly bigger than your wall that you're putting them into. When you are choosing bottles, it's really simple. Put the two together. Again, that's reasonably close. Is it perfect? No, but it's reasonably close, okay? Now this is, to make it simple, because I'm not so great at math, this is going to be 12 inches. So we got a foot. We want to divide that in half. You can make them oblongated, and that will change the light in them. And I'm actually playing around with that, but that's not where I would start. I would start with two bottles that are about the same size, that are going to seat next to each other and not inside of each other. But you can have them seat inside. So I've got my tape measure, and you know what's really cool is that most of the time the label is going to help me out. I'm close enough here to be able to say that both of these, we're just going to cut at that line, okay? Where the right above the label.
Right above.
And we don't have to take that label off, because that label is going to be somewhere in here and it's never going to show. So it is nice when people volunteer their bottles to me if they've washed them first, but that doesn't always happen either. So you always cut it and then you wash it, and then you dry it, let it sit for a little bit so that any of the moisture evaporates off of it, and then you put it together as the brick, and you can put it right into the wall.
Right.
These I made a long time ago, like in April, and so I had to retape some of them because they've been out in the weather.
What's the benefit?
Of what? Oh, there's a couple of benefits. The most important one is artistic flair, because you're taking something that's boring and you're turning it into something else. That would be number one. Second thing is that it's a passive light source. So I can come in this building and I'm going to be able to see all the way to here most of the year, even with all the shade.
And if you visit,
So those patches right there are not bottles?
Those were test patches for Papercrete to see if Papercrete and Hempcrete played nice together. That's what that's about.
and if you visit Taos, New Mexico, they have adjourned the walls of many of the
Yeah.
airships with these, and it looks like a stained glass window.
They're gorgeous, and that's the other piece, is that airships are what made this famous, because it's a way of repurposing things. So it doesn't end up in the landfill. And recycling is a joke. I'm sorry. It's like they're just fooling you. It ain't really happening. We're not shipping all that stuff to China anymore, which was ridiculous to begin with. So repurposing these things for something that beautifies and is functional. The other thing is that it's ambient light. How many of you feel so calm when you're in ambient light? And it's passive light. So as long as it's not too cloudy, I don't have to turn on a light switch to get that feeling. So if this were my house, my armchair would be somewhere close to my artistic expression so that I could really enjoy it and embody it. So on a bottle that doesn't have a label in the right place, you can just take a Visa marker and make a little line. And there's always a margin for error. So it's not the end of the world if it's a little bit off, because you're going to be taping it and you're going to be embedding it. And it's never going to see the light of day again. So close is close enough with something like this. And I hand that to you.
Right, and the label doesn't matter because that's inside the wall, so it's not affecting how the light.
Correct. Doesn't make any difference at all. So the other thing to know, everybody loves blue. Everybody loves blue. Greens are fun too. And I'm telling you, beer bottles, I couldn't live without them. I don't drink, but I have a lot of friends. Tequila bottles. So when you have a colored bottle, you want to match it. I'm going to set that one there with you.
Yeah.
Because those two are matched. You want to match it with a clear. Because when I look through, if I have two browns together, I'm blocking my light. So here's my window. And I want my window to go to the outside, and then my beautiful color, I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm going to pass this around. Just be careful. It's one that's been sitting around. When you get it, grab it by the middle. And then look through it like a periscope. And flip it around. Look both ways, because it's cool both ways. So you want to match a clear or a semi-clear with a color. I didn't bring my really beautiful one. I don't know what this is. It's some kind of booze, I'm sure. But it has a rose at the bottom, but it's clear. So I matched it with the red bottle. So when you look through, you see this. It's going to be right next to my bathtub, right there.
We can maybe even get a shadow.
Yes, we can. Yeah. So there's all different kinds of shapes. And like I said, I think it's called Patron. I think it's tequila. But Patron bottles, I'm going to have a whole wall with a little bit of blue. So these kinds of bottles are fun too, because I can turn that in different directions and it's going to make a different pattern. So if I want to, I could, these two are going to go together, but I could be putting one as a diamond and one like this, and create a pattern of whatever I want, okay? And it will add interest because if they're all the same, I mean, it's beautiful and I've seen some like that. But I'm a Gemini, so I like variety. Yeah, do you know how to use that? It needs to be plugged in, and there is
Yeah, that would be the first step.
an electric cord somewhere here.
I don't, not glass.
You would lose that. They all go through the wall. Yeah, and then you get light on both sides. Light. You want them to be measured so that they fit the space. Oh, God. And that way, you know, if it's a smaller space, you can do 4 inches. You get 8 inches. I've got a couple of 8-inch walls in my town. And I have played around with having 6 on one side and 2 on the other to see what that does. And what it does is if I do my clear at 6 inches and my color at 2, I'm going to make my color pop because I'm allowing more light to infiltrate it at a closer rate. So the wall itself. So what I've done here is called porcupining. And that's because my hemp has to adhere to this, okay? And so what I'm doing is creating little ledges for it to catch on. The fun thing is that you get to repurpose rusty nails to do this, because if they're galvanized, it won't work. Hemp and galvanized metal don't play nice together. They will not die. But if it's a rusty nail, the lime will actually eat it. It will consume it. But while it's consuming it, which takes a few years, it's hanging on it. Okay? You don't have to go crazy with porcupining, but if you're going into wood, you want to do that. The other thing you want to do is slake it. So that's going to be my next step.
I have a question. I know you're an advocate for hemp, and so am I, but you can do this with other materials.
Yes, we're going to be doing part papercrete and part hempcrete. Because this building that you're standing in front of is a proof of concept project. So what we're doing here everywhere is just experimenting with natural building and how well do things bond and do we have problems over time. It's going to be a shed and it's going to have a soil roof, a living roof, so it's going to be a really cool building. But what we're doing is a lot of testing. Sean, who is the guy who designed this, that's what he does for a living. So what we're doing is experimenting with as many different things so that we can educate so people can make up their mind. Oh, I like hempcrete, but cob is free. So which one do I want to do? Well, if you learn more about them, you're going to make a better decision. And this is such a blooming field. There's a lot of information out there and there's a lot of innovation out there. But it takes time to establish anything. And we haven't had that time yet. So how long is this going to last? Europe is 40 years ahead of us. There's lots of information that says my house is going to last 300 years without repair, other than maybe a little stucco. But once it becomes a rock, it's a rock. And limestone is a hard rock to dissolve. So, you know, it's a lot of time and energy on the front end, but I tell you, 300 years ain't bad to sit back and relax. How many of you would like to participate in building bricks or working with the hemp or setting the bottles or moving from one station to another and doing all three? Who wants to do all three? All right, cool. Who wants to do just one? Oh, good. Oh, you do? Okay, what do you want to do?
I'll do the tape.
Okay, great. So you're going to be at the table with the tape, and you can be joined by others because once we get this going, I hope we really get it rolling. The hemp has been the noise in the background, so it's about ready to come out. Are there any questions about bottle walls or why? I think I answered why we do them, but any other questions?
For the colored bottles, if you want, you mentioned putting the clear on the outside. If you want it to look beautiful from the outside, is it okay?
Yeah, oh yeah. You can switch that up any way you want. And I was saying to this woman who asked a very good question that maybe not everybody heard, I'm playing around now where I'll do like in an 8-inch wall, I'll do 4 inches or 6 inches of my clear and 2 inches of my color. And then it makes it pop even more. But when you're first getting started, it gets a little bit harder to seat them. So I would learn how to do it doing half and half. And when you know you're getting it, then play around as much as you want. I've even been tilting them so that when they go in the wall, I'm going to have this one level, but this one tilts up a little bit to catch the light in the winter because it's at a higher angle, or in the summer because it's a higher angle. And I don't know because I haven't put them in a wall yet, but I think it'll be fun to explore. And that's what this is. It's creativity. The other thing you need to know is that you need at least an inch of hempcrete between every bottle. You don't want to put 2 bottles too close because that glass is going to expand and contract. And if you don't have enough hemp to absorb that change, and here those changes are drastic, right? Like in the morning it's 20, and in the afternoon it's 79, right? That building is going to be doing wonky things. So if you have embedded it with enough hemp, you put a little sleeping bag around it. It's got its own insulation, and that hemp will expand and contract, but not to the same degree. So it's going to absorb some of that shock factor, and it'll seat in there better. I'm going to demonstrate how to do it just because I'm killing time. But I like the inside of my wall to be flush. I'm a little OCD, so if something is a little bit off, my eye will do that 1,000 times. So in doing this wall, I would want all of the bottles to butt up against something. And then if there's variation on the outside, it's fun. It looks great. It's a little wonky and I like it. But if I'm sitting in my chair staring at it, it's just, and that's just my personal OCD thing, but just know the wall that you want to see. For example, I have an outside wall that's a bottle wall, that's a windbreak and a privacy fence. So my wonky is on the driveway side, and my clean line is where my lawn chair is going to be. You can, decide which way you want to do that. So we put up a board in the back, and that's the first step. And then you're going to put your hemp at the base. If you're doing this outside or on a wall, you want to put Portland in your mix for 18 inches, and you want to pack it down so that you have a water barrier. Okay? I don't have to do that here because here's my water barrier. This is already elevated, so it's not necessary. So we're going to slate this in a minute. But this is my wall. What I'm going to do is set my bottle down, whichever way you want it to be. And then I'm going to have 6 inches of hemp. I'm going to press down just to make an imprint. Now I can pick up my bottle and I'm going to be able to see, did I get the line that I really want? If not, I just take and brush that out and erase it, and then I put it in again. And let's say I want my next bottle wall to be up to here so that I have some variation in there. I want it to go up and down and up and down. Then I simply put in more hemp between them. And then I'm going to set the next one in there and press it down. And then I'm going to stand back from my wall and say, yeah, I like that. That's nice. Then I'm going to push it back and forth like this and I'm going to make it a little bit deeper into that hemp and seat it so that my hemp is at about the half mark in terms of my vertical line. So I might have to add a little bit more hemp in there. I'm taking my bottle out and I'm going back and forth. If you don't want to clean up, you can cover the tops with paper or with tape, but it's really hard to get it off. So I just take a scrub brush and vinegar and go to town rather than trying to tape it off. It's hard to get it out from the hemp after it's cured. So I'm going to rock it back and forth, and what's going to happen is I'm going to be shoving some of my material against this back wall. So now I can take and scoop that out so that I've gotten my hemp really tight around my half of my bottle, and I've already cleaned it up so I'm not going to have as much of a mess on this side because I'm not going to press it up against that hemp. I'm clearing that off. And if you want, you can clean off your bottle at that point with a wet rag. Again, I do it all at the same time at the very end, and it takes a half a day to do a section. So that's how we want it to seat. So if I wanted to do a few here, and let's say I want that variation that the woman over there was talking about. Okay, so I've got my color, I've got my white on this side. Maybe I want my blue on this side, right? And now when I come from outside of my building, the blue is going to shine through, especially if I have a light behind it. So a lot of times in houses, that's what people will do, is you have your light switch and you have your lights behind it and it's ambient light, and you can have it in the living room with no sunshine at all. Build a beautiful wall. So for me, I would like to do a brown and a blue and a green, but I'm alternating the pattern. I've got about an inch in between, and then I'm going to elevate this one just a little bit higher, and that way I can make a more groovy pattern. And all I'm going to do there is just add a little bit more hemp. Hemp is very much like clay. So I have prefabbed a few of these bottles, and we can kind of make a little line. Whoever wants to help me with the hemp, we're going to go get it. And then if any of these need more tape, I've got more tape around the corner. So if you pick it up and it's really wonky, then put a little more tape on it before we put it in the wall. And I was just using that example. Whoever's building this wall, I think you're a creative being, and I'm going to be so thrilled to see whatever you create. So there's prefab ones back here. They're ready to roll.
And we're ready to cut over here.
Yep, go ahead and start that. I'm getting both sides of that wood.
You got me to the
That's good. Yeah, ready. This is my washer. Who wants to wash them?
Still, he's saying another project at
Since it's watery.
Sorry if I get your hand.
Oh, I see that there's a lock on the ball right there.
But I mean, it's,
Yeah.
I think the little button, because the other piece is broken. The little button.
Just hold it.
Oh, the more ambitious I feel.
I got some fresh ones right here. You said this is
She said that one. Just trash.
oh, for straps. I get that.
So go to it.
Yeah, see that?
I like to do that.
That's why it's on there. To get that.
We can work with taking this as is.
So I'm just going to take my slate, and you can always put more in, but you can't take it out. So I will put it on my brush first, slap it in a little bit, because sometimes when you're pouring you can get a clump or you can get a big blob, and now you've made your work a lot harder. And now all I'm going to do is massage that. It's like making pizza dough. I'm going to mix that together. If I added water to make it wetter, it would change the absorption of my hemp. So what I want to do is add slake, because slake is glue. And the more glue I have in my mix, the better it bonds with whatever it is. All right, now we're going. Okay, that looks like more than 6 inches, but I'm happy. Okay. Now I want to add the slake more, but I want to but I also was trying to find food and I never did, so blood sugar stuff was probably going on. Sorry, it makes me Is it okay? So, we don't want to pack it down like that, except at the very bottom. Okay, so that's pretty much now what I'm going to do is drop this back and forth. Here's my ball. you can see how we're not really able to slide that. So we're going to fix it
Like looks like purple.
lubing it. With an old lady like me, that's important. I'm on film, I really should do
I'm laughing because
Alright, so this serves two purposes. I have to have slate on, I have to have glue on whatever I'm doing. So this is going to let me move this back and forth a little bit better. And we're going to have the backing on there momentarily. Is that what they do?
Phillips head driver.
Oh, got it?
I was looking for a Phillips head bit.
If you find Donovan, Donovan is in the tan hat.
Yeah.
Ask him, he can help us out. Okay, so I can continue to compress this as I'm putting it in, and that's going to work better. So I wanted my blue bottle in the middle to be a little higher. So now I'm going to give that about an inch. And I'm going to start doing this. And I'm going to put my slake on there so I can slide. Whoops, sorry, I got that. I'm used to tapping it in. If I tried right now to just brush this on, I would move all that in. So that's why I splashed this on. Okay, so I want this one to go this orientation. And that's a little bit easier. We're going to put slake in all of these buckets. So we'll get, would you mind going and getting me more slake from the bucket next to the mixer? It's a white bucket, 5-gallon with a lid.
Okay.
Alright, go for it. You're going to make our life easier. And nothing around here is exactly straight. Matt, I think, already said it. But I don't know where he went. I'd wait for him to get back. I don't want you to get hurt. Good.
So I spelled them, and we could go tomorrow, so maybe I'll
They've got to back it out a little bit just to get it. Yeah, and then we're going to put 2 more over here. And this is where spacers, you can use PVC pipe. Now again, how long? 30 minutes. But if I'm doing bottles, why take it off too soon? I would leave it 24 to 48 hours because we live in the desert. Everything dries out too fast. And if I'm not able to water it a lot, then it's going to be like the clay pot, it's going to explode. So I would leave the shuttering on for at least a couple days.
The hempcrete, it explodes or expands, you're saying?
So
I forgot what I was going to say.
I think that you're getting at that it dries out. So
it dries out.
Yeah. So
So it's just like when you do something with clay, you cover it with a wet
So it dries
cloth,
slower.
so it dries slower. That's all we're doing is leaving the shuttering on there so that it would dry. Now, if I'm building a building like what we were doing earlier today, and I need to use that same shuttering, I can move it in 30 minutes, and I can have a grown man stand on it the next day. I've done it. 24 hours later, it's set. And then it takes 6 weeks to cure. So you can't do your stucco or your scratch coats for 6 weeks. So you really have to plan ahead here because we only have 2.5 months of summer. So you want to make sure you incorporate that. Thank you, Johnny, on the spot.
Anytime.
All right, good. Now, we're going to do the same thing.
So that's all.
And now, yeah, we're meeting the face. And now we got to fill in that space. But we're going to put more slate.
I mean, I would assume.
Is that when it?
That's kind of like halfway.
Okay, this is good. That's the one I already did. So go ahead and start with and then it's also something I'm a bad example of today. It's really good to put a tarp down so that you catch all the material that you're dropping. And normally I would do that. Yes, it is. And also you can repurpose all of it. So you can put it in the next batch. And the faster you put it in, the better. So whatever I can scoop up, I'm going to put into the next batch, and it's going to slate, and it's actually going to make it strong. So does cloth also take 6 weeks? I don't know anything about cloth. I'm a hempcrete girl. But I have been learning about it from Sean.
The guy never sitting right down with the cat.
Unless we want our baby on Alright, so now I have something to bump up against. And that hemp, you can see now I don't need that slate. But this is pretty far. Can we Rose, just a little bit closer to that edge? Because these are pretty long.
It loosens up the joint between the glass and
we don't really need the screws in too tight. They're basically just holding it for us. So if we can back them out, push that.
So it's this
Winter times it's outside. I've got snow in the house. I'm going to shovel and get it. After 3 years, I'll never have to worry about that again. And between 3 years and 10 years, it's petrified. So it's
wow.
And there's a bridge that was built in the 4th century.
Still of it.
Still usable.
already got my cup.
That's a good question.
You're saving your blue bottles and your red bottles and your funky cookie bottles.
So all my electrical is with the PVC, and then it is embedded in the if I ever need to have that, I roll the bottom and you see it. And I already have that. The last one. workshop, not everybody got inside, right? The other thing though, is like inside the kitchen, I'm embedding great big bulbs. Like I've got a spaghetti jar. So they actually will go on the outside
I'm not
of
worried
that wall
about
into a bedroom. So the bottom wall will be the. I don't have to slow down. So slide your hand in this one, and your thumb is going to go in that hole. Interesting.
Yeah.
Did you get the machine going?
That's where you can find it. I washed it.
And is he?
It's full of water, so we'll use some tomorrow.
That's why we come to the energy fair. To get some
All right, there you go.
We're properly creatively lazy.
Same slide.